Hi, I'm Daniel Likis, and welcome to Abstract Essay, where ideas take shape, thoughts find depth, and every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest. He is a writing coach, award winning author, and a former CNN senior copy editor. No other than Mr. John Dedakis. Welcome on Abstract Essay, Mr. John. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Hi, Daniel. It's good to be with you. I'm John Dedakis. I'm a manuscript editor, a writing coach, an author, and I'm coming to you from Baltimore, Maryland.
Baltimore, Maryland, indeed. And Mr. John, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Yes. And today let's talk about your writing process. Tell us, as award-winning author, tell us what are your writing process, Mr. John.
The writing process is fairly slipshod and haphazard. I, I actually, to a certain extent, the probably the one discipline that I've got is that I journal every morning. Usually, I get up very early, pre-dawn, and write in my journal about the day before. And primarily, a journal is for me a great place to work things out. It's a way to examine my life. So a lot of it is just what happened. But then if something, I don't know, catches my interest or makes me wonder, why did I think that way? Why did I feel that way? Why did I say that? It gives me an opportunity to get sort of inner clarity. So even though I may not be writing a novel or a memoir or, anything creative, it still gets the pen moving and gets my brain thinking. But that is also the time when I do my creative writing, when I'm working on a novel or some other project, because there are no interruptions. I'm fresh. And so I've found through trial and error that the early morning hours work best for me.
Mr. John, tell us what are your ups and downs in your writing process?
What are my what?
Ups and downs.
The ups and downs. I don't really have a problem with writer's block. I did have a problem once with it when I was a reporter, when I was a radio reporter working. Actually, I was an anchor at a radio station in Madison, Wisconsin in the 1970s. And my job at the time, it was a part time job because I was a student at the University of Wisconsin. And my job was to do an hourly newscast, but it was just taking me so long to write. I was, you know, second guessing myself, and I just wasn't getting anywhere. So I went. The transmitter was out in the boonies and by a cornfield, and in frustration, I went outside, got on my knees, and I prayed, Lord, help me to write well and fast. And even my prayer needed editing because I wasn't trying to tell God to, make me, give me an answer fast. I wanted to be able to write fast and to write clearly, and yet that simple prayer was enough to break the logjam. And I went inside and banged out a newscast and never really looked back. I've never really had a problem with writer's block. So that's sort of that's a down and an up.
Mr. John, how do you typically start your writing process? Do you have any rituals or routines?
Not really. I mean, I there's the whole planning versus pantsing thing, and I like to have an idea of where I'm going when I write something, but I never plan nearly as well as I think I do. So often in the middle of a project, I get stuck. I don't really know how to connect the dots to get to where I need to go. And so then I do sort of seat of the pants writing. And if I can get my characters talking to each other, then that throws enough light down the path so that I can, get make a little more progress. So it's a combination of seat of the pantsing, and planning. So I guess you could say I'm a plantser.
Plancer, I like it. Do you have a favorite place? Where do you feel most creative?
Probably where I am right now in the downstairs of our three-story place townhouse in Baltimore. I can see out in the backyard. It's green. It's a lush area. Of course, pre-dawn, I can't see out
Yes.
there at all. But I don't need to be in a specific place. As a journalist, you don't have the luxury of having everything just right and waiting for the muse to arrive. You just write because you're on deadline. I'm not on deadline anymore, so I prefer this setting, but I can basically write just about anywhere.
Where do you find the most inspiration for your stories or characters?
I think a lot of the inspiration comes sort of inadvertently in the relationships that I forge with people. As anyone will tell you who's ever met me, I'm voraciously curious. So it won't be long before I'm asking you all kinds of questions about yourself. And one of the things I've discovered is that people like to talk about themselves. And so they
Yes.
tell me their stories. And what I've discovered is that when you're listening, you're learning, and when you're listening, you're basically filling up this reservoir of creativity that we all have, and by becoming more aware of the people and situations in your life, uh, that I think is a great habit to cultivate to fuel that inner creativity.
Mr. John, how do you develop your initial idea into a full fledged story?
Primarily, I don't write ideas down. I used to do that in a notebook. I would write idea in all capital letters, and then I'd write, a thumbnail of what my idea was. And then maybe after a month, I'd go back and look. And more often than not, I'd forgotten what really the idea was. Whatever I'd written didn't really resonate. I'd forgotten what it was all about. And so now the ideas are usually questions that I'm working on in my personal life that I'm trying to work through, and or that I'm interested in and curious about. And those are the ideas that take root. I'm thinking about them all the time or frequently. I don't have to write them down because I'm ruminating about them. And so that's where usually the ideas come from something that's going on in my life and a question that I have that I'm trying to answer.
Mr. John, have you ever abandoned project because it was not working? Or what made you decide to let it go?
There was my fourth novel, Bullet in the Chamber, primarily is a response to my son's sudden heroin overdose death in 2011. And about 8 months after he died, I started writing the book, and I got about 6 chapters in, and I just had to stop because it was way too soon. And I went through grief counseling, and I didn't return to the project for another 2 years. And so, as it turns out, the idea stayed. I put aside the chapters, but once I had a better story to work with, the initial writing that I did, a lot of that still survives. So I guess you could say I put the project aside, changed it significantly, and then picked it up and resumed and reworked some of the original stuff that I had.
Interesting, Mr. John. And do real life events or people ever influence your writing?
They really do. And it's not a conscious thing. It's not like, every conversation I'm taking notes and, expecting it to show up in my book. It's just that yes, I definitely draw from, and I think this is probably true of any writer, draw from personal experience. Because you writing what you know is it's unique to you. Artificial intelligence doesn't know your personal experiences. So artificial intelligence will only get you so far. And when it comes to creativity, it can't touch it because it doesn't know you. So yes, I definitely draw from personal experiences, um, but it's an unconscious thing as opposed to something I, overtly set out to do.
Let's talk about your drafting and editing. Mr. John, how many drafts do you usually go through before considering piece complete?
The first novel, Fast Track, went through 14 major revisions. And those revisions were based on times when I would share it with friends and people to get their feedback. And their feedback was invaluable. So I obviously was reworking it and reworking it. And the closer you get to publication, the more you're writing for an audience of one, your editor, your agent, or whoever. And so, that book went through 14 major revisions. I don't think any of the ones since have gone through that many. I think the most subsequent ones have gone through are somewhere between 8 and 10. A couple of novels have only gone through 3 drafts. So it really depends. But the first one took the longest time and required the most reworking. But the more experienced I get, the more comfortable I get with the process, the faster it goes and the more efficient I am so that I don't really have to do as much reworking.
Mr. John, do you edit as you write or do you wait until you have a full draft?
A little of both. I like to write the project all the way through and then go back. And that the reason I do that is that, getting all the way through the project is an important psychological hurdle because when you get done, it's done. It sucks, but it's done. And so you've worked through all the major problems. But I also, because I am an editor, I like to um, I copy edit it. I go through it a couple of times before I lock it in. So I may stick with it a day or two before I lock it in and then move on. And then I don't loop back, to make it better. I really feel it's important to make that forward progress because once it's done, it's that discovery draft. It's a steaming pile of whatever. And then you go back and make it coherent. It's important to get, I think, it's important for me to write it all the way through and then make it better.
What's the most challenging part of a writing process for you, Mr. John?
Oh, the hardest part is that empty page, staring you at in the face and wondering, what am I going to do here? But if I can get my characters talking to each other, that's like having little flashlights on your knuckles, throwing enough light down the path so that you can write a little more and a little more and so on. So, but it's that blank page that's just death.
Do you use beta readers or critic partners, or how do they help shape your work?
I have beta readers, people who I have an alpha reader now, my wife. She wasn't always the alpha reader, but for
Okay.
Enemies Domestic is the most recent one. And Cindy and I came up with the idea together. I would do the writing, and then she would read it and give me notes. And so she read every chapter uh, all the way through and helped me get my protagonist out of a lot of tight spots. And then you turn it over to people who are more objective. And there are a couple of people in my life who've been with me for 20 years or 15 years or 10 years. They've read several of the books and they know my writing, they know my character, and I know I can count on them to give me honest feedback. Beta readers, I think, are critical because they're objective and the good ones are honest.
Definitely. How do you know when a piece is truly finished?
Because it's as good as you can make it at the time. And I think there are a lot of people struggle with perfection and they feel that it's just, it needs a little more work. And I feel that it's done when I'm pretty sure it's ready and then you just let it go. It's never going to be perfect. Done is not the same as perfect. You're never going to find perfect. So, do it as best you can, and then start getting it out there.
Mr. John, let's talk about the challenges and motivation. What's the hardest thing you had to write and why?
What was the hardest? What?
To write and why?
Well, I mean, the hardest thing was to write about my son's death. I mean, it wasn't the book Bullet in the Chamber was not about him, but I used a lot of the collateral damage and the trauma surrounding when he went missing and was found dead. I used it as a subplot. So, to be honest, I basically cried the whole time I wrote it. And it was a catharsis. It was, I think, very therapeutic to be able to do that. I advise my writing students move toward the pain because we all have pain and loss in our lives, whether it's the loss of a loved one, a pet, a job, our innocence, health. And if we move toward the pain and mine it, I think that that makes our writing more authentic and it'll resonate with more readers.
How do you stay motivated during a long writing project, Mr. John?
I think that it's the project itself that motivates me. It engages me. In fact, the hardest part is when a project is finished, because if I'm not careful and if I don't have something, that's big to go to next, I feel at loose ends. So it's the project itself that keeps me motivated.
Indeed, the project itself. Have you ever struggled with self doubt in your writing, and how do you overcome it?
Oh, that's a really good question, and I know a lot of people suffer from imposter syndrome. I don't have imposter syndrome because I think I am a strong writer, but I think I'm also realistic about who I am as a person. And I know there are people way better than I am as writers, but I also know, to be honest, that I'm better than other people. And so I'm in the middle somewhere. And I think that I'm not crippled by self doubt. I have confidence, but I also recognize that I can learn from people and I can grow as a writer as well. So that's a delicate balance that one forms, but it can be a real crippler for a person to have self doubt. That can you. I really feel that's a really major problem because there are a lot of good writers that I work with who do have self doubt, and I really do my best to talk them out of it because I think that a person can uh, uh, take themselves out of the process prematurely by saying, "Oh, I'm suck. I'm no good. Nobody's going to care about this," and then they stop, and people will never realize how good you really are if you don't give it a chance to fly. So anybody, my advice is anybody who's suffering from self-doubt or imposter syndrome, I think that's an important, humbling thing to experience. But I really urge you not to let it cripple you and keep you from at least, giving other people a chance to weigh in and help you get better, or to encourage you and say, "This is really good."
Yes, definitely. And Mr. John, as a writing coach, award winning author, what are your short term and long term goals?
Oh, well, the short-term goal is to finish editing the manuscripts that people have hired me to edit on time. I set deadlines for myself that I try to make realistic. There are two projects I'm working on now. I'm not under the gun. I still have given myself enough time. So those are the immediate things. Another thing I'm working on is I'm expanding my speaking business so that I can speak to more people, not just writers, but CEOs, associations, grief organizations, to inspire them, especially people who are struggling with grief, to use writing as a way to heal. So that's an immediate concern I'm working on, trying to reach more people. And in the back burner is book 7 in the Lark Chadwick series. I've got the idea. I've started writing. I think I've written about 6 chapters, and my wife has been my alpha reader. And then there's my memoir, which is finished, but Kensington Publishing is looking at it now. Haven't heard back from them for a while. That's not a good sign. So we'll see. That's a project that I really would like to get out there, but to a certain extent, it's beyond my control right now.
Good luck to your goals, Mr. John, and looking forward for more success. And
Thank
what
you.
would be your piece of advice for those people out there want to be, of course, like you?
Don't give up. Don't quit. Keep
Yes.
going. Don't give up.
Don't give up, people, and try until you succeed.
That's it. That's it.
And don't lose hope, for
Yes.
sure.
Yes.
And can you please recommend a book or books that influence you, Johnny?
Probably the one that I think was most helpful was a book called The Weekend Writer by Robert Ray, Ray. You can get it dirt cheap on Amazon. It's, I think, published by Writer's Digest. And that was a template that I used for the first two novels that I wrote. And it presumes that you have a life outside the writing life. You have another job, you have a family, and it gives you guidance, practical suggestions on how to craft a novel and get it done within 6 months to 9 or 10 months and actually start marketing it. It's very practical. The Weekend Novelist by Robert Ray.
Thank you for that recommended book, Mr. John. And again, what is your piece of writing advice you wish to have received earlier?
Oh, that's a good one. I wish I'd been encouraged earlier to write fiction.
Oh,
That
yes.
was just never on the agenda. I kind of inspired myself to do it. So, yeah, the advice would have been, yeah, try this.
Why not, right?
Yeah.
So, Mr. John, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well, geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast, Law 101 and Mental Health 101. Love letters.
Do you ever sleep?
That's what they told me. Are you sleeping? Love letters in the third season, and movie 101 review and music 101 in fourth season, and science 101 and sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. John, if you could change one thing about your writing process, what would it be?
I think I would read more.
Hmm.
I think I would read for pleasure more. Most of the reading I do is stuff that people hire me to read, and usually it needs work. And I love to read, and I'm starting to now get in the habit of reading for pleasure. And so many books, so little time. It's embarrassing.
Yes, definitely. And tell us your latest book, Enemies Domestics.
Latest book, Enemies Domestic. It came out July 4th, 2024. My protagonist, Lark Chadwick, is White House press secretary. She's pregnant. She's ambivalent about becoming a single mom. It's her first day on the job as White House press secretary. The first question is asked in the daily briefing on live TV comes from a reporter with an agenda who asks, "Are you or are you not planning to abort your unborn child?" And that thrusts Lark into the middle of a highly toxic and polarized political fishbowl, and a dictator becomes president. And so it's a political thriller ripped from reality.
Mhm. Yes, Mr. John Dedakis. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your books, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Support my projects right now.
Yes. And where do people buy your books, Mr. John?
Best place is at my website, johndedakis.com, John, D as in dog E, D as in dog A, KIS as in Sam, johndedakis.com.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. John Dedakis, because if you support him, for sure, more and more award-winning piece novels to come. So, Mr. John, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel.
Yes, more to come, people. See you soon.